In this challenge review, we're going to complete the spider attack. The first thing I need to do is let's create the acid effect behavior. So here, the logic is move left at 3 meters per second. So to do this, we need to basically say void update, and we're just going to say transform.translate. We're going to move to the left, or I'm sorry, move to the right is what I meant. We want to move right. So transform.translate vector3.right, and then we have a speed of 3. So we can say 3 meters per second, so times 3. And then to bring it from frames to seconds, we're going to say time.delta time. That is going to move us constantly to the right. Now, after we've done that, we now need to detect the player and deal damage. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to basically say, we're going to have a trigger method here. So we're moving to the right. And then in here, we're also going to have void on trigger enter 2D. So collider 2D, and we'll call this other. And basically, we want to just detect the player. So if, we'll say here, so if other dot tag equals player, then what do we want to do? We want to basically get that I damageable contract and call the damage method. So here, we're going to say, we can say I damageable, we can say hit equals other dot get component, and we can get the I damageable. And then once we have that, we want to check and make sure the player does indeed have it. So we'll say if the hit is not equal to null, if it does have that I damageable contract, then we're going to say hit dot damage, and that's going to damage our player. Once we've done that, we should be good to go. The next thing is to destroy this after 5 seconds. So if we hit the player, we do hit.damage, and we're going to destroy it. So we say this.gameObject. But if we don't hit the player within 5 seconds, what do we want to do? We want to just destroy this, right? So here, let's go ahead and just say destroy after 5 seconds. So to do that, we can simply go into void start, which will be called as soon as it actually gets instantiated. And we'll be able to say destroy this.gameObject, and we can specify a time, so 5.0f. This void start should get called every time we instantiate it. So now we've completed the acid effect behavior. We can now move on to our animation event. So now this fire gets called every frame of the animation that we want it to. And we need to now tell the spider to actually call, we need to call the attack method on the spider from here. So what we can do here is let's look logically and hierarchically where we are. Let Unity compile. If I select my sprite of the enemy spider, you'll see here that I have the spider animation event. I need a reference to the spider script, which is on my parent. So that's how I'm going to grab that reference. So on the spider animation event here, I need a handle to the spider. So I'm going to say private spider, and we'll call it underscore spider. All right, there is our spider. I need to assign that handle. So I'm going to say spider equals transform.parent.getComponent, and then the spider component. So I'm accessing my parent and getting the component off there. Once I have that, I can then say, hey, let's call our attack method, spider.attack. And there we go. So now our spider attack method is being called, and we can begin filling in that implementation. So we're over here, and the logic here is we need to instantiate the acid effect. So in order to do that, we're going to have a variable that's going to store our acid effect. So public game object, and let's call this acid prefab, acid effect prefab. Let's save that, hop back into Unity, and we're going to drag that from the inspector. So if we look at our enemy spider, it's looking for a prefab element. And as you can see here, acid effect prefab. And we'll drag the acid effect there. Okay, so here is our spider. We have the acid effect prefab. We now need to instantiate that. So in here, we're going to say instantiate. We're going to instantiate the acid prefab. we're going to do it at the transform.position of the spider, which is its center. And then we're going to ignore rotation. So we're going to say quaternion.identity. Let's save this. Head back to Unity. And let's verify everything is set up properly. So here we have our enemy spider. We have our sprite, spider animation event. And then we have our asset effect. Now our asset effect needs to detect collisions. So we need to add a rigid body 2D. We are going to have gravity scale set to 0 so that it doesn't fall. And then we also want to add a circle collider to it. So circle collider 2D. And we should be good to go. Let's save this, run our game, and we should be good. And as you can see, it fires out acid, exactly like we want. So right now, it's deleting itself before we can even see it get to the player. So let's run over here. And there you go. So at 5 seconds, it deletes itself. Right now, it's above us. All right, so we'll be able to come up here. And you'll notice here that I am able to like move and manipulate those. The reason for that is because it's not a trigger. So we definitely want to make sure that it's a trigger. However, what's important here is that we can indeed jump over it, and that will allow us to attack the spider. All right, we want to make sure that the spider here only has 1 life. So let's go ahead here and implement that functionality. So to fix the acid, we just have to select our acid prefab and set is trigger. That way it pass throughs us. Okay, let's save that, and in the next video we'll polish this up.